Welcome to the space where research meets the real world, the Psychology of Black Womanhood podcast. While Black women make up a significant portion of those seeking therapy, the percentage of Black women in the field as therapists to meet this demand remains disproportionately low. It's essential to highlight the contributions of Black women who are practitioners and clinicians, not only because their work is invaluable, but also because they bring unique perspectives that's crucial for the well-being of our communities. Recognizing this, we're including special episodes that shine a much-needed spotlight on Black women therapists. We're calling these therapist spotlights, as they're going to center each interviewee's personal journey. In this therapist spotlight episode, Latricia Robinson interviews Dr. Tasha. As seen on CBS 4 and NBC TV, she specializes in getting at the core of an issue quickly, using what she calls drive-by therapy. Dr. Tasha received her doctorate in clinical psychology in Berkeley, California, after graduating from Spelman College. She facilitates healing circles and retreats for several corporations and is a relationship coach for professional athletes and their significant others. Dr. Tasha is also the author of a couples workbook entitled It Ain't the Dishes.
I first want to start by learning more about drive-by therapies.
Okay, so I used to live in Los Angeles before I moved here to South Florida, and I worked with a lot of gangbangers. And so either they were gang-affiliated youth or folks that were older and kind of retired, were like OGs that had gone to jail and are now trying to change their life. I would have these groups with these guys. Basically, they would say how quickly I would get to the truth. I said, like kind of like a drive-by, when you would go by and literally get to the core quickly, which is the whole point of a drive-by. Like you're gonna feel it. And I always say the truth is gonna hurt, but of course it'll set you free. And so I'll just never forget this day in the group. It was like, I am gonna call this drive-by therapy because it's going to feel like a drive-by, as in like, whoo, what just happened? What's interesting about drive-by therapy is it's like a twofold definition or meaning, because I also make house calls. So depending on different folks' tax bracket, I will actually like talk to a couple in their living room who can obviously afford that I come to them for like 90 minutes, drive the hour, sit with them for 90 minutes and then come back. And then I'm literally making a drive-by in their home. So that's always fun.
It's definitely a new approach to therapy. I don't think that you see a lot of people doing that work.
No. It definitely is. I've been told that it's like the old school way that doctors used to be. Doctors used to make house calls. I wish I could quote when, but literally like 40s, 50s, 60s, like it was a common for doctors to come to your home. But this is, I didn't know, but it kind of makes sense though, because I like to sometimes go back to the way things used to be when things were working. And then I do a talk show that I call Drive-By Therapy Talk Show. I just play on, obviously, the brand. I used to do it with a stand-up comedian, and it was crazy. It would be inside of a lounge that holds about 100 to 150 people. And they would sit, have a cocktail, have chicken wings, and I would have topics like things I wish I knew before I said I do. How are your mommy issues affecting your romantic relationships? Who's a better communicator, men or women? And I'm talking about 100 to 150 people will come every month, every first Thursday. At some point, I did it at the Improv, which is where actual stand-up comedians renowned in the country go. It was so cool. And so I would bring the counseling and he would bring the comedy. It would just work. And I'm talking about, I met thousands of people that were just talking about their real lives at like 8 to 10 p.m. at night. It was the coolest thing. It made it chewable. Like, it made mental health a little less fearful to speak about.
I was just going to actually say that I've seen some of the videos and it's kind of like partying meets therapy meets.
Isn't it crazy? And they are like not going anywhere and they are really sharing, right? Isn't that the crazy part?
Right. And why?
I'm always amazed.
Why do you think that dynamic is different compared to if someone comes to you as therapy? It just kind of seems like with therapy, sometimes people are like, oh, I don't want people to know my business. But for 150 people to come and share their business, how do you think that works?
So this is the coolest thing about the collective, right? And this is really, at the end of the day, this is beyond even Black folks. When there is a collective experience where it's like, oh, so we're all okay with this? And it's like, I've been waiting to take off this mask and not have to act like I'm fine every day, because I'm not. And that's the truth. Once it happens, once I break through that, or once they come because they know that's the entire way, the style, or my approach, and they just talk about it. There's like a few people that stand out. There was a guy, he was in his 50s. He wasn't the biggest fan of me, I can't lie, at the end. But I didn't realize where it was going to go. He came like 3 times. And the first time he came, he was talking about how like he hates women and you know how y'all are. And this was the whole thing. And so I said, what did your mama do to you? And I said, just like that on stage, right? Not knowing that the answer to this question is that his mom struggled with crack cocaine addiction and obviously neglected him, which a lot of kids of the, like, you know, there's a whole thing on the ACOA, adult children of alcoholics and addicts. Like they feel neglected. It doesn't matter what drug it is. It could be alcohol. It could even be gambling. But the kid feels like whatever that drug is your priority. So as I'm not really wanting to make fun of him, because clearly I'm a clinician, because I'm spicy and I have this kind of quick wit, I was just saying, like, what did your mom do to you? Not really realizing like mom really did something. And so he came a couple more times. But point is, I'm going to be real if the minute I can taste it. So when you're seasoned or tapped in clinician, and I would say this even for early career therapists or psychologists or coaches or whatever it is, like intuition is everything. There's some things I shouldn't even know that I know, but when you're like tapped into like the source, it's like sometimes a lot of people that are in our healing profession, they really haven't done the work inside themselves. Because they wouldn't miss some things in front of them that are on the couch. But once you do the work, you can sometimes taste exactly what's going on in the room, which is literally my whole tagline of how I get to the core of your issue quickly. Like literally within about 10 to 15 minutes of meeting you. And I'm just going to say it out loud, and then we're going to do something about it, because going around the bush too, nobody.
And how do you think that approach has served your therapy in itself? Do you find that it's more helpful for clients?
They're actually usually like this is one of my favorite things in session. They're like, oh, wow, you're really good at this. Just like my favorite. And that's the moment of how did we get there that fast? I came here to talk about how my grandmother died, not realizing that I struggle speaking to women at work because I have issues with my sister. And it's like, how did we get there in 15 minutes? The truth is, if you really, really, really listen, there's always something being said underneath what's being said with probably anybody. That's beyond like a therapeutic relationship. Even if you're in a relationship, romantic relationship, if you could kind of listen underneath what they're really saying, a lot of us probably wouldn't react in the way that we would, right? Because we would know exactly what the core of what they're really saying, like the underlying real issue.
So you're talking about Black men, and I know you do justifiably alpha men.
Yes.
More about that?
Okay, so this is crazy. So I know I'm a woman. And I have an entire men's group it's about 130 guys. They have a full group chat on WhatsApp. I'm on it. But the coolest thing is that, so it was 2020 and my father had just passed. He was one of those COVID deaths that, you know, that was like July. By August, I had basically a patient come in and he spoke about how he was told that he was the father of his girlfriend's child. And she lied about cheating on him. And so he was talking about it so like matter of factly without emotion. And I said, you don't seem to be angry at all. He was like, I am angry. And I was like, I can't tell. And I was like, you can actually be angry in here. You know, you don't have to do the fear of being the angry Black man. And once I gave him permission, you can literally, because obviously he was sad, hurt, and angry, but he never allows himself to be angry. And so that emotion, allowing it to come out, is actually the reason why we called it JAM. At first, it was justifiably angry men. Because right in session, he said, oh my God, like more men need to realize that it's okay to be upset. It's okay to be angry, and you can express it in like a setting like this. And if not, it's going to eat at you. And so we started a group from that. Once we started, I realized that one of the biggest complaints that men have on my couch are that they don't feel heard. I mean, literally, from their mom, sister, girlfriend, wife. And so there's reasons why we say things like men don't express themselves. Well, some of the reason is because we are talking over them. We're interrupting them while they're speaking. And so they shut down because they don't feel heard. So I give men an entire platform to speak. We meet every other month. The last session topic was the demons we battle within. So deep. There are a lot of, juicy things that people think are what people battle with. Like, oh, do you struggle with porn or do you struggle with lust? And that did come up. But like 75% of that group, and we talked for like 4 hours, like 8 to midnight. Wow. It was crazy. They did not want to leave. And it was about feeling like you're good enough. Like it was that internal negative self-talk, that just not feeling good enough, having an internalized self-hatred. You know, like you look like the father that your mom couldn't stand. So now you don't even like you. So that was the demon. It was almost the love for yourself. It was deep. I was like, wow. It took a different turn. I thought we were going to talk about more like addictions and things that they were ashamed of, but it was really the way they see themselves.
Wow.
Yeah. And I have a women's group too. And it just started last year. It's called Ladies Let It Go. And that came from a lady that finally told her mom, like, why did you stay with the predator that I told you molested me when I was 7? She finally said it out loud to her mom. She finally went to have therapy with her mom. Her mom dismissed her in session. We had done like a year or 2 of sessions, and I told her that her life's work should be to help other women let it go. And so we have about maybe 20 to 30 women every other month on a Saturday, and we drink hot tea together and have little sandwiches. It's cute. There might be about 150 of those women too in the last year, but a different 30 come every time.
Busy.
I know. Lord have mercy. But it's so hard not to do this work. It's one to do it quietly with one person, which is what we're taught in school, right? But to like create groups organically like this, like I couldn't make this up. I didn't leave school and say, oh, I can't wait to do a men's group. No, it was like a need. Like the young man said, man, more men could benefit from being able to be angry. And then we moved it from angry to alpha.
So as a Black woman, why do you think that these styles of therapy is so important for our community, whether if it's in a group or whether if it's like a drive-by therapy setting?
Mm-hmm. It just sucks that we really think we're struggling by ourselves. And like so many people are dealing with the same thing, whatever it is. Like whatever it is, like the election just happened. Some people are having anxiety around who's going to be our leader. Some people are having anxiety around, is this how people really feel about Black people? And then you could be in a setting where you could talk about it and not feel like you're alone. It's just like that. Or things like other couples can be around each other to realize we're not all happy. We're all acting happy when we go out to the birthday party. But like, oh, you argue in the car on the way to the party every time too? Have you learned to be like, it's crazy. Once you have that conversation, then they're like, oh, not only are we normal, we're actually, it might be healthy that we go through this. Or tell me how you did it. One of my specialties is helping couples work through infidelity. When I do this boot camp for couples, when it's just couples talking about their own infidelity and how to stay, I know some people would disagree with it, but if you truly don't want to go, then how do you stay? And that ends up being the topic. But to just do it with one couple versus 10, oh, it's cake. It's like really a retreat. I think it means something for us to not feel like we're alone because we're collectivistic people.
So you mentioned the boot camp.
Oh, so there's a book. You read about the book that I have a book called It Ain't the Dishes.
I know about It Ain't the Dishes. Yep.
Okay. So It Ain't the Dishes came from, there was a couple that I'm talking to and they were arguing about the dishes. And after that call, I had a colleague that said, oh, how did that go? And I was like, girl, I said, this couple was just arguing about the dishes. And we both know it ain't the dishes that they were arguing about. And she said, that would be a good book title. And I was like, it would be. And so it's called It Ain't the Dishes, but the chapters are, it ain't the trash, it ain't the laundry, it ain't the hair on the soap, it ain't the toilet seat, it ain't your mother-in-law. Like, it's all of the things that we think it is. But the truth of the matter is, it's thoughtfulness. You know what I mean? It's wanting your person to be attentive. And it's just, you just get mad when you have to take out the dishes out of the dishwasher if you loaded it. Because in your mind, there should be like a shared contribution or shared responsibility. But you're not mad about the dishwasher. You're mad about someone not being very thoughtful. And so, yeah, it's a really cool book. From that book, I created a boot camp. And so we go through the book and we meet for like 5 or 6 weeks. Yeah.
And are they coming in person or is it online?
Oh, in person. I'm not really into the online thing. I'd rather talk to 5 people in person than 50 online. Yes, I will make 50 times the amount of money, but I don't know. It doesn't speak to me. I really like people. I really like to interact with them like this.
Well, speaking on media, can you share something about Hush and also the Hot 105 that you were involved in?
Oh, Jill Tracy. It's so deep. Like Jill Tracy just passed away. Jill Tracy was on Hot Talk 105. She was on radio for like 30 years, but she put me on the radio, FN radio. Like really, like not the AM radio where you're hearing the static, like a real FM station, R&B station out here in South Florida. And I just did drive-by therapy at midnight, which sounds crazy. Like, what are you doing at midnight? Who is calling at midnight? We all know who's calling. Folks that are drunk, folks that are depressed, folks that just got home from a party, folks that are still working. I remember thinking like, oh, I want to be like the little black Dr. Ruth, you know? Back in the 80s, she was on the radio, I believe in New York. And everybody loved her because she would talk about sex in a very like matter-of-fact way. Like, it sounds like to me that you need to stimulate the clitoris a little bit more, right? And people would just call in with their sex questions and she just made it chewable. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay that you don't know. And so that's where it started. And I did that for a couple years. People would literally call in. I spoke with strippers or exotic dancers, pimps, drug dealers. Like, it was like such an audience that would probably never really come into my office. And we would talk about like how to have a healthy relationship if you are always dancing for married men. Do you really believe in loyalty? That was one of her top shows. She always talks about that. She was like, this doc right here, she gonna have everybody in the station crying. But it was really like one of the dancers she got really emotional about wanting marriage, but not really believing in it because of how many people that would hire her or come to the club that were married. It almost jaded her idea of marriage now that she's ready to be in a relationship.
Wow.
Yeah, that was on the radio at midnight.
That's deep because I feel like you're really working with communities that don't really get a lot of mental help or recognition or attention, you know, like working with exotic dancers, working with pimps.
Yeah, and some have the most trauma there, right? Like there's reasons why they've chosen these lifestyles. And it's so much childhood trauma that we got to get to that part before we can get to adult life and how it's affecting it.
And so what was your involvement with Hush? And do you have any goals for that documentary?
Oh, yeah. So Hush isn't my documentary. It is a man named Antoine Lindsay, and it's called Help Us Say Help. He's a Miami native, or as he likes to say, Liberty City, because when you're from the different, you know, neighborhoods, you want to like rep your neighborhood, which I get. And so he had a lot of therapists and community health advocate, like basically speak on, I mean, just being Black, period. And then talking about mental health in the Black community. It's about 70 minutes. Everybody has access to it. It's not like a Netflix movie. It's like, if you want to take this into your classroom, you know, as a professor, that's what he had in mind. But yeah, he goes around the country. When I can go with him, like we end up doing a full-on group right after the documentary is viewed and talk about what just came up for you. Why do you feel unseen? I mean, it's deep. Like we go basically into group session. And again, people are just ready to talk. Yeah. That's actually how I got with the lady who now has the women's group. Oh, it's all connected. It was like a theater of, I don't know, maybe 200 people. And I said, you know, I'm here to tell you that you no longer have to go to Thanksgiving dinner with your molester because mom continues to invite him, knowing what he did to you. And I just said it just like that with all the other things I said. And from there, she called me the next week and said, I need to meet with you because I'm that little girl that's now in her 50s that my mom married my rapist. And we obviously all still go to Thanksgiving dinner together. And I've never thought about not going. I'd never thought about it because I always want to be close to my mom. So deep. But the deep part about it, let me tell you, because this field is so deep. Like once you become like the whistleblower, you could also be ostracized. You know, like, so we're here to set you free and tell everybody that they were wrong and all that. But then like now she and her mom don't talk. As long as she acted like it never happened, her mom was fine. And then now that she's all set free in the last year and talking about it and confronting her, literally there's a cruise the family goes on. She doesn't even get a call to go on the vacation. She hasn't even seen her mom or talked to her mom in like 6 months to a year. Because her mom finds it to be like, I can't believe you're putting our family's business out there. I can't believe you didn't say nothing you were silent for 40 years, ma'am.
Right.
How about that part? But as long as I'm silent as your daughter, then you'll invite me over because you're literally going to choose your husband over me. But it started from me saying, being in the Hush documentary, telling anybody that's a victim of sexual abuse or physical abuse or domestic violence, it doesn't matter. You don't have to act like you don't have to be around your family just because it's for a family holiday, but you got to find something to replace it with. Because then now we got issues with loneliness, and now you're alone for the holidays.
Right.
Getting free, it doesn't always feel good, because you would think you always feel better afterwards, but it's not true. Because if you set yourself free and the next generation doesn't want to, then you now are stuck.
Right. You're also an advocate. And one of the ways that I've witnessed you be an advocate is by, depending on the year, being president of South Florida chapter of the Associations of Black Psychologists. So can you speak to how you joined, and then how has that helped you develop over time?
Oh, that is such a good question. Okay, so I joined like you as a student. I moved here from Los Angeles in 2014, and my postdoctoral fellowship was at Citrus Health Network. Oh. And one of the things that the director asked us to do was to sit in like a board meeting of court being held for like APA. So like when people would get in trouble and have to go before the board, we had to sit there and listen. And as much as someone would think, oh, it's super juicy like a court, like it was kind of very policy, and you just learn all the ethics that you learn in school, like it comes to pass right there in front of you. So I go to that, and Dr. Robertson was there. Obviously, being one of the other chocolate chips in the cookie, we see each other. That's what I always call it. And, you always speak when you're in more predominantly white spaces or non-Black spaces. And he walked up to me and said, have you ever thought about joining? And so I did in probably 2015. And then within 4 years, because he was the president for 5 years, I think within 4 years, I became the vice president. Or I did the whole, secretary, president-elect, then president. And at this point, I'm sure I've been on the exec board for 7 of the 9 years that I've been a part of it, something like that. I don't mind leadership.
How has that changed your professional life, being a part of that org?
So it's interesting. So the conventions every July, and you go to different cities. And I realized, obviously, just being a part of the Black psychologist doesn't mean we're all the same. So I've learned that. I've learned a lot about how a lot of times we were so trained to be white clinicians, and I hate to say it like that, but a lot of folks are still stuck there. So they're still on what we were told not to do. And it's like ABPSI is literally in place. So you learn that there is an African way to do this thing, and you don't have to apologize for it. You can get your license, write all the scholarly papers, finish your dissertation and all that the way they tell you. And then you learn how to practice with your own folks. And it may be different than what they taught you in school, because in school, you're really learning how to be a non-Black clinician, because that's majority of who writes the books and who are the professors. Now we got all the DEI, and there's a lot of diversity in a lot of schools, but I'm saying we're all taught to do things like, don't hug the client, don't do this, don't give a Kleenex. Like the things I remember hearing, I'm like, there is no way I'm going to meet with a Latina woman and not give her the Latino kiss cheek to cheek when I see her. She would feel disrespected. Like, you don't know me. And so the same for Black folks. You gotta say a little bit about yourself for your people to want to say, who am I talking to? And so some of the books will say, never self-disclose. Let me tell you, if you don't self-disclose with Black folks, how are you going to build rapport? They're going to look at you with 7 eyes and think like, I'm good. And so ABPSI will have all these seminars and workshops to remind you of like your African descent and how we relate, and still in an ethical way, and then you almost get free from being able to like be you versus what being a student of color can be in grad school. Like you just are trying to get by, keep your head down. There's a journal that I did in grad school and with other students of color. It was literally called How to Navigate the Ivory Tower, meaning the tower of white folks to get up the ladder. Isn't that deep? And it was big. Like I even like learning things that were like non-Black, which I'm going against your, not going against, but I'm going outside of your question. Because even when I learned about the way Asians were taught how to be in class, like they were taught to be quiet. To be quiet was to show respect. That's what their parents taught them. And with Black folks, we have this call and response, like the history of the Black church. So we're actually, when it's quiet in the classroom, we're like, why is no one talking? A teacher or professor needs to know all of this going on. But it's like, you have to learn what not to do to get through. That's what ABSI is like. Let me bring you back. Now that you got your degree, let me help you in how to be a Black psychologist or a Black mental health clinician.
So as a Black woman and a clinician, what's next? Like, what direction are you headed in?
Oh, so everybody wants me to be televised. I don't know how many times I've heard that since 10th grade. You're going to be the next Oprah. I don't think I want to be Oprah. I want to be Dr. Tasha. I always say Oprah interviews great people. I want to be the great person she would want to interview, if you think about it. She is great, but because she's a journalist, but not because she's always giving all of this great feedback to the people. She's just putting people in place so that you could hear from them. And so I'm open to doing it. I just don't want to change. I don't want anyone to make me have to straighten my hair or dress a certain way and just all the things that come with Hollywood and being televised. I want to create an academy for therapists and coaches so that they can learn how to be more effective, which is more about what I was talking about earlier of learning how to be in their practice as a person that's in tune with the people, like in tune in the spirit realm. Also to laugh, know that it's okay to laugh in session and it's okay to lean back and unlearn some things that they learned in school. That's really the truth. Because there's reasons why my practice is booked 3 months out. And there's reasons why people ask me to speak at their engagements. And that's not me being arrogant, but it's because I'm set apart. I'm not the cookie cutter clinician that was just trying to follow the rules. It's like, come on, we can do it a little different. We can do it very Black and still be professional.
That was Dr. Tasha, our first Therapist Spotlight episode. To learn more about her drive-by therapy work, community activities, and media journey, check out this episode's podcast page on our website. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Psychology of Black Womanhood podcast. We have some great guests already lined up for our upcoming shows, so be sure to check out our episode topics by going to our website at www.psychologyofblackwomanhood.com. We'd love to hear from you. Tell us what you think by leaving a comment on whatever platform you use to access this recording. And to keep up with our other Psychology of Black Womanhood projects, just follow us on Instagram or Facebook. Thanks for tuning in.